Privet moi druzy. Hello, my friends. I think I'm getting the hang of saying hello, my friends in Ukrainian. It is day 321 in Ukraine, and here's what we're going to see today. Okay, so the big news is about Soledar and Bakhmut and how the Russians are actually taking real estate, but it's not that significant, and I'll explain why. In other news, the Pope talks about crimes against humanity. I'll tell you why that matters. Sweden is reactivating civil conscription. A military surgeon performed an amazing operation, and I'll tell you about that. Remember the people behind Putin? We can prove whether they were actors or the same people showing up again and again using facial recognition software. Finally, U.S. Senator Angus talks about a historic mistake in Ukraine, and I'll talk about that. We'll end with fun with Russian state media. All right, here we go. Okay, we're going to start with the British intelligence update, and they're talking about what's going on in Soledar. That's a name that probably isn't all that familiar until the last couple of days. Soledar is about 10 kilometers north of Bakhmut, the capture of which likely continues to be Russia's main immediate operational objective. Russia's Soledar axis is highly likely an effort to envelop Bakhmut from the north. Now, what do we mean by that? Okay, here's Bakhmut, here is Soledar. I rolled the clock back to the beginning of the month and watch the colors change, and Russia's going to take a lot of territory. Here's the first, here's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, and ninth, right? Now, Soledar is a city or a little town, but it's all farmland around this, and a hat tip to Jake Bro for pointing this out. So I went to the map and I looked at it. Here's Soledar. You see how it's urban, but all around here is farmland. Taking farmland is not a tough feat. And so that's what they've taken. But in spite of that, what we see from the ISW is that Prigozhin is taking a victory lap for this. He's claiming to capture all this territory with Soledar over the last few days. Now, the trick to this is that if they can take this area around Soledar, they can come down and take Bakhmut and swing around. But they can't really swing too far. Again, this goes to Jake Bro because there's a natural river, a barrier, a river here that's going to prevent them from doing it. But they still can threaten from the north if they are allowed to take lots of real estate. But that does look like, to Russians who badly need a victory, like a lot of real estate that they've taken. Look at all that. That's since the beginning of the month. Okay, so it's unimportant real estate, but it's real estate nonetheless. Soledar, during the day in Soledar, Bakhmut district, and the cities, this is Interfax, Ukraine. The city's environs were hit 86 times with various artillery systems, said a spokesman for the AFU. Therefore, the enemy suffers, but in the process, they're suffering colossal losses there. Despite this, they're still trying to move forward because for them, even a small tactical advance is presented as a great achievement for Mother Russia. Okay, so that's why they're doing what they're doing, and they are legitimately taking ground, but it's not really all that useful ground to what I've heard from different experts. I'm not a military expert. Okay, there's another article in here talking about there's a historic salt mining town of Soledar, and if you look at the map, what you'll see here is that there's a salt mine back here. So they're worried about another thing here, and this was from Radio Free Europe. They suggested that each side was likely concerned about the possible use of the enemy by 200 kilometers of disused tunnels from the Soledar mine running underneath the area. And so that's why the fight is there. So that's kind of interesting. It's also said that Russian troops started regrouping after Moscow unilaterally called a ceasefire in observance of Orthodox Christmas over the weekend. Now, I can't prove that, but that would be a really interesting reason. Now, discount this a little bit because this is speculation. This is not something that we can really hang our hats on. Okay, let's look at how the Russians are looking at this. Key Donbass town close to liberation, says the DPR head. So Russian forces are about to seize the key town of Soledar. It's really not a key town. Bakhmut's not even a key town. Said Dennis Pushlin. The events in Soledar are developing in an exact way that the town is close to liberation, he said on Channel 1. They always take this pride of what's going exactly according to plan, even when it's not. Okay, let's shift gears and talk about some other things. So the Pope said that the war is a crime against humanity. And I've seen a lot of people criticize the Pope and say he's not doing enough, or he's too tepid, or he's too even-handed. Take what you can get when you can get it. You're not going to agree with everyone on everything. You're not going to agree with me on everything. That's okay. Glean what you can from me. Take what you can from the Pope. Look for points where you can be united with people that are on your team. In his yearly address to diplomats, Pope Francis has denounced Russia's war in Ukraine, the Pope's State of the World address, in which he said he denounced the wake of death and destruction caused by Russia's nearly year-long offensive in Ukraine, describing the war as a crime against God and humanity. That's a pretty good sign. That's a pretty good statement. He's not condemning the Ukrainians for fighting back. The Catholic Church has something called just war theory that developed from Aquinas, and like he's understanding that. He's aware of that. The Ukrainians are killing in defense, and that's a legitimate way of conducting war. Every act of war directed to the indiscriminate destruction of whole cities or vast areas with their inhabitants is a crime against God and humanity, which merits firm and unequivocal condemnation, Francis said. So take that, run with that, tweet it, do whatever you're going to do with it, but don't condemn him for just not being as full-throated as you would like him to have been. Take what you can get and move on. Okay, let's look at the next article. Sweden aims at reactivating civil conscription to shore up defenses. So this is like military conscription, except it's for specific civil services. You're required to do it, but it's like emergency services, getting the power back on, getting the water on, things along those lines. They said this, experience from Ukraine are clear. They said that experiences from Ukraine are clear when it comes to protecting the civilian population. Rescue services are put under heavy pressure. So they're smart to not be overwhelmed. But hasn't Sweden joined NATO? Not exactly. Sweden, which has been alarmed by Russia's invasion in Ukraine, did have a bid for NATO. But Sweden and Finland, who broke with us decades of neutrality and applied for NATO last year, Turkey has so far refused to ratify their applications, citing security concerns. Hungary has also yet to approve their membership. So they're not in yet. So they're still in danger, right? And they know it. And so they're trying to make sure, like, they're nervous. Okay, so they're trying to make sure that everything gets nailed down properly and that they're prepared. Ukraine says a team, this was absolutely fascinating to my mind, has nothing to do with anything I normally talk about, but wow. Ukraine says a team of military surgeons removed an unexploded grenade from inside the body of a Ukrainian soldier. I don't know how you get an unexploded grenade in there. Like, something has to go really bad for a grenade to get lodged inside you unexploded. But they removed it, and this is what it looked like, and they actually got it out. Good for them. That's pretty amazing. Okay, next article. This is from the BBC. What does facial recognition software make of Putin's backdrop crowd? Now, a number of you were Johnny on the spot pointing out, hey, look, this woman and some of these guys here, they were also in these other things. And you pointed that out. I said, wait a minute, we'll see it when we see it. I'm a little slow to the party, but I'm more accurate, right? I'm not going to give you the first frontline news when it exactly happens, but I'm going to check and make sure that things are right, and things are right. Look at this. We use facial recognition software. BBC Russian investigation in 2020 found that some events presented with impromptu conversations with everyday people were actually filled with friendly local officials. So like this blonde woman, they went and looked at her. So they use facial recognition software, and if you have a match of 75% or higher, they compared the 2016 and 2017 and found a 99.1% score. Her name is Larissa Serguna. She is a member of the regional parliament for the United Russia Party, which backs Putin very strongly. When we compared her 2016 image from the boat to her official party portrait, they got a 99.8% match. So we know about her. What about these guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, these guys, over 99% match for all 4 men. So good on you for seeing that. And I mean, we know that Russia lies, and we're just proving it here. And so this is another reason why you can't trust them, because if they're willing to do this and think that we're stupid, what aren't they willing to say? Senator Angus King. He's a senator, an independent for Maine, and somebody sent me the video of this, and I appreciate that. Thank you for sending that to me. Here's an article about it. Angus King of Maine. Jack Reed of Rhode Island went to visit Zelensky last week, and he said at the end here, so this is my exact sentiment. This is exactly how I see things. I get letters every now and then, people saying, why are we doing this? Ukraine is far away. It's not our fight. Well, it is our fight, because if we don't fight it now, it will spread, and it will become something that we can't avoid being involved in, just as occurred in the late 1930s at the beginning of World War II. I agree wholeheartedly. I did my master's thesis on the Nazis. I see it in Technicolor. I mean, this is exactly right. Okay, let's turn our attention now to fun with Russian state media. Okay, the first article here, they're saying Ukraine Foreign Minister Dmitry Kuleba was complaining. They like to say that Zelensky and Kuleba complained a lot. No one has done enough to help yet is a quote that they lifted. Here's the quote: "No one has done enough as long as Russian boots remain on Ukrainian ground. Arming our country for victory is the shortest way of restoring peace and security in Europe and beyond," he tweeted. Okay, I think that's a fair statement, right? But then the first deputy permanent representative to the UN, Dmitry Polansky, said, translation from Ukrainian: "We have squandered our army again. Give us more armies and we will continue to pretend that we are fighting Russia on our own. And don't forget to sponsor our oligarchs' luxurious life in Europe." Okay, so he's completely twisting it, making it look like he's complaining. He's not. He's saying, give us the weapons, we'll do it, just like Churchill did in World War II. So, yeah, the twisting is amazing. No place for an independent Russia in Western mindset. RT loves to complain about this. The Secretary of Russia's National Security Council has lashed out at the West. Nikolai Patrushev, the events in Ukraine are not a confrontation between Moscow and Kyiv. It is a military confrontation of NATO and the US and England first and foremost with Russia, a top security official said. Yeah, but the score is like NATO, 0 killed. Again, similar thing. Russia is not fighting the Ukrainian people, says the security chief, Nikolai Patrushev again. We are not fighting a war with NATO because by definition, we cannot hate ordinary Ukrainians. Really? Tell the Ukrainians that. Ukrainian traditions are close to the people of Russia, just as the heritage of the Russian people is inseparable from the culture of Ukrainians. That's propaganda being pushed again and again, in the assumption the propaganda is being pushed. Ukrainians are not going to argue that they're not hurting Ukrainian people. They absolutely are. The whole Ukrainian affair has been staged by the US, another propaganda point, to sow discord and hone the technologies of separating and pitting parts of one nation against each other. See how it's saying that Russia and Ukraine are one nation? That's what they're trying to do, and that's their ultimate goal. So you can see it here in the propaganda. So I hope that helps you understand the news of the day. Inform yourself as well as you can. You can read my book about Zelensky, free on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. You can, if you want to contribute, buy a mug or a hat or something to help a Ukrainian entrepreneur survive through this hard time. If you want to give to charity, here's Samaritan's Purse. You can give right here. If you want to give to United 24 because you would prefer to give there, give there. That's perfectly fine. And the link to that is below as well. If you've gotten something out of this presentation, please like. If you haven't seen me before, please subscribe. I do these every day, including Christmas and New Year's. And if you want to support what I'm doing, you can buy me a coffee, and thank you to the 10 of you that have already done that. The last thing I want to attempt to say is Dakiu shoku vi bolovyeti za Ukrainiu. Thank you for cheering for Ukraine.